Hey guys, Steve here from Top Guns out of Terre Haute, Indiana. Today we're going to take a few minutes to talk about firearms safety. We'll talk about the 4 basic rules of safety, but we're also going to go a little more in depth and talk a little bit about how we can be more responsible as firearm owners. Lately we've been seeing a lot of reports in the news of children and or youth that have been getting a hold of their parents' firearms and doing something that either A, was intentional, or B, was an accident, and we've seen the loss of life. Rule number 1, treat every firearm as if it's loaded. What exactly does that mean? Basically, we're going to treat that firearm as if it's loaded even if we know for a fact that it has been secured and unloaded. Even if we've had someone with us that is also experienced that has confirmed that it's unloaded, we're still going to treat that firearm as though it's loaded. Rule number 2, always keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction. What does that mean? Basically what we're saying here is to make sure the business end of your barrel never crosses the path of another individual, and also never crosses the path of where another individual could be standing if you had a free line of sight. Rule number 3, keep your finger off the trigger at all times. The only time we should be placing our finger on the trigger is either A, we are in a range and we're shooting, B, we're using it to defend ourselves, or C, in some instances, some firearms do require you to pull the trigger to take them down for cleaning, in which case you should triple check and make sure that that firearm is unloaded, not only visually, but physically, by feeling and making sure that the chamber is empty. Rule number 4, know not only your target, but also what is beyond your target. Basically what we're saying here is that you should not only know that you have indeed a threat standing in front of you, or maybe you're at the range and you're shooting paper, but you need to know what's beyond that paper, or you need to know what's beyond the threat, so that if your round goes through the threat, is it going to hit someone else? Or if you miss the threat, is it going to go through some drywall and hit an innocent bystander? So it's very critical that we not only know what our target is, but we know what is beyond our target. Now that we've covered the 4 major rules of safety, I want to talk just a little bit about some common sense rules that maybe we don't always discuss. When we have a firearm, it is our responsibility as a gun owner to make sure that our firearm is not getting into the hands of the wrong people. Now that doesn't just mean somebody that has ill intent, but it could also be a child that perhaps is too young to understand firearms and firearm safety, and so as a result, maybe an accident happens because they were able to get their hands on a firearm where otherwise they shouldn't have been able to. So a good example of that is a lot of people are now starting to carry a firearm in an external bag, a purse, satchel, etc. If you are one of those individuals, please keep in mind that we live in a society where we're all on our mobile devices all the time. We're always looking at our phones and distracted. So we're encouraging anyone who has made that choice to carry their firearm in an external purse or satchel to make sure they maintain immediate control over that firearm at all times. If you're an individual that keeps a firearm readily available in your home, please keep in mind that it's not only children that we have to worry about, and certainly not only your children, but there may be other children coming over that are not familiar with firearm safety. There may be adults coming over that either A, are there to work, or B, they're there as an invited guest, and they are not familiar with firearm safety as you are. So please keep in mind that that is something that we need to take into consideration as firearms owners, that we may have to take that extra precaution to keep them reasonably secured so that we still have access to them if we need them, but also keeping them out of the hands of unwanted individuals. If you're someone who has children around the house, I often hear people say, you know, if you need your gun, you need it quick. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. If you have it on your body, then there's a chance that you're pulling it out in a quick enough situation that you may need it chambered. However, if it is not on your person, if you have time to go get your firearm, then you probably have time to chamber it as well. And so that's one extra step that if you have children around the house, that it would take them to be able to function and be able to have the strength to pull that slide back, especially for young children. So that one extra step could potentially help save a life. By no means am I suggesting that that is a fail-safe. So there are many other steps that you should, and I encourage you to take if you have young children around the house, but at the very minimum, that's one that we here at Top Guns would recommend. One other safety tip that we'll mention is situational awareness for those of us that carry a firearm on a daily basis. You know, often I'll be out in public and I'll see someone carrying in the open or exposed. And I often wonder myself, could that person truly protect their firearm if someone wanted to take it from them while they're distracted? And so it's harder to take a firearm from you if a potential assailant doesn't know that you have it. And so we recommend that choose how you carry your firearm very, very wisely. Also, even when we're carrying concealed, we also have to consider what type of retention. Is it secure enough that if we get in a physical confrontation, it's not going to slip out? Or is it, you know, are we carrying appendix carry? Are we carrying kidney carry? Are we carrying an SOB around the back? And then you have to consider your environment. So if you're in an environment where you have lots of people to the rear of you, is the rear of yourself the best place to carry? So I will tell you, I personally happen to carry at kidney carry. So I do adjust that though if I'm in a very crowded area. So if I'm in a, I don't know, maybe a theme park or a crowded mall or whatever, where there's lots of people to the rear of me, I will take my holster, slide it around, and I'll carry an appendix, even though I don't particularly like appendix for my situation or my personal preference. I do like it in a situation where I've got a lot of people to the rear of me, and I want to be able to protect that firearm as best as possible, because once again, if we are choosing to carry a firearm, it is on us to protect that firearm and to keep it in a controlled situation where the wrong people are not getting their hands on it. Don, I know you have a practice that you like to use with your personal carry. I also follow the same practice, and what is that practice?
Well, I got myself into the habit of not taking my firearm out of the holster.
Okay. What's that mean?
When I come home at the end of the night and I secure my firearm, I take it out literally just like this. I do not take my gun out of the holster. I put it in the safe in this condition. And
by the way, his gun is unloaded. We cleared it prior to doing the video, so we just wanted to use it for an example in this particular segment. All right, guys, the last tip that we're going to talk about when it comes to handling firearms and being safe is making sure that you clear it every single time you touch it. So by doing this, we are minimizing and exposing ourselves to less risk. And so let's explain. If I'm going to pick this up to handle it, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clear it just to verify. Now, even if it's a quick press check or if you know it's been loaded and you're physically looking into, or it's a firearm that you haven't handled recently to know that it's unloaded. But even if I know it's unloaded, I'm going to do at the very minimum, when I set it down and I pick it back up, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick press check. If I hand it to Don, first thing Don's going to do, he's going to check that firearm just to make sure it is completely clear. Once he hands it back over to me, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and clear this firearm one more time just to make sure. And I may choose to take the mag out, I may not, but at the very minimum, I am going to check this firearm both physically and visually to make sure that it is in fact empty. Why do we do that? Well, you say, well, you know, I know this guy, I know he's not going to stick around in there, or I know I just touched it and I know that it hasn't been touched since and I know it's not loaded. It's not just about that. It's about creating that muscle memory. And I promise you, here in the shop, it has saved our rear ends multiple times.
And potentially a life.
And potentially a life. Where we have grabbed a firearm from someone and they literally, in many cases, they'll hand it to us without the bag and say, hey, it's empty, I've just cleared it. We go ahead and we just do a quick little clear just to make sure it's empty. Or in some cases, it has happened where people have taken a live round on purpose and stuck it into what was believed to be an empty gun, hoping to see an accident take place. So create that muscle memory. Every time you touch it, every time you pick up a firearm, clear that firearm. The exception to that would be when I put my firearm for the day, when I put my firearm on for the day.
Your everyday carry?
My everyday carry. And quite frankly, I often check to make sure it is in fact loaded as opposed to making sure it's unloaded. Anytime a firearm has come out of my personal physical control at all times, I like to check that firearm.
Absolutely. If it's been out of my control for any reason whatsoever, I check it.
Absolutely. Guys, I hope some of these tips may help out. Please tag someone or share it with someone that you think might get some value out of it. Certainly anyone who's new to firearms. And lastly, what I'll say is don't hesitate to post down below, because I'm sure I missed a slew of scenarios and ideas. And it always helps to have other people posting and letting us know what we've missed, so that next time we make a video, we can make it a little more inclusive and get more potential material there for people to learn off of. Thanks, take care.